The latest Aquaman movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, honestly deserved a better ending. And I'll tell you why. Welcome back to More Endings, where we explore better alternate endings to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Get ready for a wild ride of discovering exciting new twists and turns. Be prepared to have yourself astonished as we take you through a number of satisfactory pathways the ending of this movie could have taken. If you are a lover of superhero movies, then you must have seen or heard of the latest Aquaman sequel, which was released just a few days ago. It is an interesting movie, to say the least, but we believe the movie could have ended better. That is why we're here to examine the various alternative endings the movie could have had, or actually deserve. But how does the movie even end? Let's refresh our memories. Besides, if you're here, it probably means you've watched the movie in question. But in case you haven't, spoiler alert! Also, remember to kindly smash that subscribe button. Now, on to the recap. Ending recap. After an action-packed quest to destroy the ancient Orichalcum refinery and stop Black Manta, Arthur and Orm successfully gained access to Necrus, the ancient home of a frozen ancient deity known as Kordax. It's there Arthur and Orm attempted to defeat Kordax and his earthly vessel Black Manta, who had been possessed by his spirit due to a magical artifact known as the Black Trident. The Trident's evil magic led Manta to kidnap Arthur and Mera's son, Arthur Jr., and that triggered an all-out attack on Necrus to try and save the child from Manta and Kordax. Luckily, Kordax's blood magic plan to drain Arthur Jr. is cut short when Atlanta, Mera, and her father, King Nereus, and his army arrive to save the day. As they battle the undead minions of Kordax, Arthur and Orm take the fight to him and Manta. Channeling the dark magic of Necrus, the Black Trident almost possesses Orm, but brotherly love manages to bring him out of it, and we see the pair's tempestuous relationship play out on screen. Of course, the whole sentimental brotherly love is enough to get Orm to release the Trident, but Arthur can't destroy Kordax until he uses his own magical gold trident that once belonged to Kordax's brother Atlan to strike the evil Trident straight down the middle, destroying the Black Trident, Kordax, and the ancient magic that bound them. Well, in one of the most interesting twists of the film, none of the main characters die, despite this being the final Aquaman film, and it is at least partially based on one of the most tragedy-forward arcs, Death of a Prince. After Kordax is defeated, everything becomes chaotic, and Black Manta is almost falling into a crack under the ice. In a surprising move, Arthur tries to help Manta and gives him a chance to make things right. But Manta, without the superpowers from the Black Trident, decides not to take Aquaman's hand and chooses to fall into the abyss. The movie doesn't clearly say if Manta is gone for good, leaving his fate uncertain. This makes for a sad ending to the iconic comic book Bad Guy in the DCEU. As for Orm, rather than sending him back to prison, Arthur, Mera, Nereus, and Atlanta agree to fake his death and let him lay low for a while. In the end, though, Arthur reveals Atlantis' existence through an announcement at the United Nations and declares his intentions of making the kingdom a member state. So, how differently could the movie have ended? Well, here are 4 alternate endings people would have preferred to see. The fight between Kordax and Aquaman should have been more intense. Okay, this one really surprised me. I mean, it can be argued that throughout the movie, Kordax is even a more villainous presence than even David Kane. I say this because David's action is largely tied to the spirit of Kordax that eggs him on to pursue evil. So when Aquaman eventually meets Kordax, one would expect a more intense, more spirited, and intriguing face-off. The whole thing was rather flat. To add some perspective, imagine the mental and physical preparedness that went into battling the army of the undead in Game of Thrones, and the way the fight was executed so intriguingly and suspensefully. Well, this movie lacks that. The most menacing force of evil is undone in a matter of seconds. How lame. Surely it could have been done better with a prolonged and intriguing fight scene. Black Manta should have taken Arthur's hand. Alright, so Black Manta's issue in the whole movie isn't just because of some casual vendetta. It goes back to the first Aquaman movie, where Arthur takes down a boat run by Manta and his pirate gang. In the chaos, Manta's father meets his end, leaving the dying man with one final request. Promise me, son, kill Aquaman. That's a heavy burden to carry, right? So, throughout Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Black Manta is basically on a mission fueled by a promise to his father, a promise he's damn serious about. Now, let's throw in a twist. Remember Kordax's magic? Yeah, that funky enchantment played puppeteer with Manta. So, some of the crazy stuff Manta did wasn't entirely on him. Imagine trying to control your actions when there's a magical force pulling the strings. That adds a layer to why he might not have been entirely in control during the whole conflicting moment. It's not just a grudge, it's a mix of daddy issues and magical meddling. If we even take a very close look at it, we'll remember that Black Manta isn't all that bad. Saving Dr. Stephen Shin shows a softer side, a flicker of humanity beneath the revenge-fueled exterior. Yet, when faced with Aquaman's offer of redemption, the weight of the past makes him refuse Arthur's hand, as he eventually slinks below the crevice of ice into his eventual death. I mean, of course, no one really dies in the DC universe. But we can presume that Black Manta did, because having been stripped of his power, there's no way he could survive. But even if that is not the case, the uncertainty to his ending makes the whole thing more cruel. Many people, including me, would have loved to see Black Manta get a better ending. Maybe something along this line. Black Manta is put in prison and goes through some sort of rehabilitation. Or simply this, he should have taken Aquaman's hand. Arthur should have maintained the secrecy of Atlantis' existence. Alright, Arthur might have actually missed the mark by spilling the Atlantis beans to the surface world. First off, the Atlantean Council had a good reason to slam on the brakes. When kingdoms come together, there's always some deep-seated disdain going on, and the Council's been keeping the lid on Atlantis for a reason, and it's just because they're trying to avoid unnecessary drama. I mean, sure, Arthur had good intentions, thinking Atlanteans and humans could be BFFs, but the reality is a bit trickier. The Council wasn't just being grumpy, they were safeguarding against a potential underwater Armageddon. By revealing Atlantis, Arthur unknowingly threw a wild card into the delicate balance, and the consequences could be like opening a can of magical whoop-ass. So maybe the Council's hunch about keeping things hush-hush had some merit after all. The whole Atlantis meets Earth party might have sounded cool, but it's not always easy being the bridge between two worlds. Orm should have been placed under house arrest. A little flashback. Remember the flashback moment when we learned that Kordax and Atlas fought? That was because of two brothers fighting for the throne. You know, that mighty weapon that David wields like a boss? Turns out it's not just a fancy accessory. It was crafted with blood magic, a serious mojo that was cooked up by Kordax. Remember that Necrus was one of the 7 kingdoms that was lost to all after it was cursed. Kordax fought his brother, King Atlan, and that led to the ruin of the Black City. Necrus was a superpower due to its exploitation of oraclecum. However, as Necrus's efforts were poisoning both the land and the sea, King Atlan tried to get Kordax to stop. Through dark magic, Kordax crafted the Black Trident to defeat Atlan and continued doing as he wished. Kordax used the Black Trident to corrupt all of Necrus's citizens, transforming them into mindless monsters. After being defeated by Atlan, Kordax, Necrus, and its inhabitants were frozen. Orm should have actually been placed on house arrest or something. I get it. He helped his brother save Atlantis from the common enemy. But ambition can't be trusted and is very rarely tamed. With Orm free and without much to do in a presumably isolated place, it's only safe to assume his quest for the throne would be revived. After all, an idle hand is the devil's workshop, and he's only his half-brother. The blood doesn't run that deeply. This is a crooked criminal who did some terrible things in Aquaman 1, if you remember, and some brotherly heat during that moment when they faced off. David barely counts for nothing to people like this. An outright death would have been too severe, of course, but a more reasonable punishment would be if he were placed on house arrest, if not forever, for a time at least, since one cannot be certain of how well he'd conduct himself. Dr. Stephen should have received some sort of acknowledgement after the war was won. Okay, so Dr. Stephen Shin returns to Aquaman 2 as the scientist obsessed with finding Atlantis. At a crucial point in the movie, Dr. Stephen encounters Arthur and his brother Orm. He exposes David's evil plan and also talks about his obsession with finding Atlantis. We also see that after Arthur Jr. was kidnapped, he sent coordinates so they could be tracked. A very good man who contributed to the plot of the movie in many ways, no doubt. Although all these efforts went under the radar at the end of the movie, the ending would have been better if he somehow got some sort of acknowledgement for what he did in saving Atlantis from David's evil. If he were given, say, a position in the intelligence team of Atlantis, for instance, this would have been a very commensurate compensation. And in fact, it would do the greater good for Atlantis in terms of safety to have such dedicated and curious individuals. Anyway, we all know these are hypothetical scenarios, and they especially invite fans to reimagine the story in ways that resonate with different aspects of these beloved superheroes. What's your favorite alternate ending? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue the conversation on how the epic showdown could have taken a different turn in the DC Extended Universe. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more exciting content just for you.